Well, the time has finally come. We just may be nearing the wonderful moment we've all been waiting for, the end of the story of George Santos. The Ethics Committee in the House of Representatives has released their long-awaited report on George Santos, and it's pretty brutal. I gotta tell you, we'll walk through some of what it reveals. We'll look at George Santos's crazy response to the report and how this may lead to, finally, the expulsion of George Santos and more. Before doing that, though, let me quickly remind you of who we're talking about, okay? Who is this person? There's a guy named George Santos. He ran for Congress in New York State in 2020 and 2022. In 2020, he lost. In 2022, he won. And shortly after he won in 2022, unfortunately, shortly after, not shortly before, he was exposed as a serial liar. He lied about his work history, educational history, history of philanthropy, the death of his mother, his family lineage. He even was accused of lying to a disabled veteran, raising money for the veteran's sick dog, then keeping the money, and the dog died. And the list just goes on and on. Then separate from the lies, or connected to it, but even worse, he also seemingly engaged in criminal behavior. He's been indicted on charges related to money laundering, wire fraud, defrauding the United States, identity theft, etc. And one of the big takeaways from this ethics committee report was the way he spent campaign cash in illegal ways. Some crazy details. One of the hilarious ones in the report is that they allege George Santos, and they have evidence of this, spent campaign cash on Botox and OnlyFans. Botox and OnlyFans. But I'm not going to say it. Here's MSNBC breaking some of this down.
Now to this breaking news, staying in Washington, the House Ethics Committee just released its report on indicted Congressman George Santos. And the big headline from this report, as we're still going through it, they say that there is substantial evidence that Santos violated federal laws. Let's get right to NBC's Julie Sirkin now on Capitol Hill for us. Julie, what else are you reading in this report?
Well, look, this is the work of the committee that has been poring over this topic, investigating Santos, and now we have this report just in a couple of minutes ago. They say that Santos blatantly stole from his campaign, spending campaign funds, according to this report, which we are just going through now, on things like Botox, lavish trips to Atlantic City, on OnlyFans, on designer goods. I mean, really everything under the sun. He misappropriated official campaign funds, again, that were supposed to go to his campaign for personal expenses. The committee is also saying that Santos's conduct warrants public condemnation. They say it was beneath the dignity of the office and has brought severe discredit upon the House. I mean, really going through this report, they are all but recommending that Santos be expelled without really going that far. But the things they are alleging in here is certainly damning on it.
This is crazy. Things don't look good for George Santos, I have to tell you. And how do you not feel bad asking people, as he did, to believe in your vision of America, okay? And would you please, $5, $10, give to my campaign so I can benefit your life or bring forward our cause? And then you know you're spending that money on just absurd personal reasons. Again, Botox and OnlyFans. If you're not familiar, by the way, OnlyFans is a subscription service for adult content, you could say. So people are giving to George Santos. Again, they're hard-earned cash because they believe in whatever, him promising to lower inflation or fight back against Biden. And then he spends it essentially to watch porn, is what we're talking about here. That's how ridiculous this is. Now, his response on X is even more absurd. Here we go. If there was a single ounce, he writes on X, of ethics in the ethics committee, they would have not released this biased report. The committee went to extraordinary lengths to smear myself, and my legal team about me not being forthcoming. My legal bills suggest otherwise. Doesn't even make sense. Is a disgusting politicized smear that shows the depths of how low our federal government has sunk. I think you show how low our federal government has sunk. Everyone who participated in this grave miscarriage of justice should all be ashamed of themselves. We the people desperately need an Article 5 constitutional convention. What is he talking about? Go away. We're quickly approaching $34 trillion in debt. The government is continuously on the verge of a shutdown. Because of you, you goof. Our southern border is wide open. Our current president is the head of an influence-peddling crime family, not true. And all this Congress wants to do is attack their political enemies with tit-for-tat unconstitutional censures, impeachments, expulsions, and ethics investigations. This time, nope, that's not what he said. The time is now for the states to rise up and commence an Article 5 constitutional convention. I've come to expect vitriol like this, frankly. He didn't say frankly, from political opposition, but not from the hallowed halls of public service. I'll remain steadfast in fighting for my rights and for defending my name in the face of adversity. I am humbled yet again and reminded that I'm human and I have flaws. Yeah, more than most humans, I gotta tell you, George. But I'll not stand by as I'm stoned because I'm the big victim by those who have flaws themselves. I will continue on my mission to serve my constituents up until I am allowed. And this is the good part. I will, however, not be seeking re-election for a second term in 2024, as my family deserves better than an embarrassment like me. No, better than to be under the gun from the press all the time. Public service life was never a goal or a dream, but I stepped up to the occasion. We wish that you had it. When I felt my country needed it most. I will 100% continue to maintain my commitment to lying all the time. I mean, to my conservative values in my remaining time in Congress. So very exciting that he won't be running for re-election, which means even if he's not expelled, at least we won't be dealing with him in 2025. And he was promising before this report came out to run for re-election. Now he's saying he won't. So at least the report moved the needle on that. As far as the other details from this report, the Daily Beast reports, it summarized a dizzying array of findings, stating he blatantly stole from his campaign, deceived donors, and attempted to cover it all up through a constant series of lies to his constituents, donors, and staff about his background and experience. Santos' purported backstory, which he touted during his 2022 campaign, included being the grandson of Holocaust survivors, an educational history at Baruch College and New York University, work experience at Citigroup and Goldman Sachs, and a mother who died from health impacts due to the September 11th terrorist attacks. The report offers a blunt assessment of the claims, quote, "No part of that backstory has been found to be true." And it goes on and on. Now, to the big question, is he going to be expelled? That's what we're all asking. Well, the report doesn't call for expulsion, but we're seeing a shift in favor of it now that the report has come out. The chairman of the committee, for example, Michael Guest, said he will file a motion to expel Santos after the Thanksgiving break. And it seems like a lot of people on both sides are coming out in support of the effort. I think a lot of people, especially in the Republican Party, wanted to wait for the report to come out so they can point to it and say, that's why I'm expelling George Santos. And my prediction would be this time it's going to work. On that note, though, the last time a resolution got brought forward to expel George Santos, New York Republican Anthony D'Esposito delivered these remarks in favor of the effort.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I rise to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows: House Resolution 773, providing for the expulsion of Representative George Santos from the House of Representatives. Whereas George Anthony DeVolder Santos, known as George Santos, was elected to represent New York's 3rd Congressional District in the House of Representatives on November 8, 2022. Whereas after Election Day, it was revealed George Santos lied about a significant portion of his background, including his education and previous employment. Whereas George Santos has a long history of misrepresenting his and his family's connections to major events, including the Holocaust, September 11th terrorist attacks, and the Pulse nightclub shooting. Whereas on May 9th, 2023, George Santos was indicted on 13 counts of wire fraud, money laundering, stealing public funds, and lying on federal financial disclosure forms to the House of Representatives. Whereas a federal grand jury indicted an aide to George Santos' campaign on charges of wire fraud and identity theft for defrauding potential donors by impersonating Speaker Kevin McCarthy's former chief of staff. Whereas on October 5th, 2023, George Santos' former campaign treasurer pled guilty to falsifying campaign finance records, including lying about a $500,000 loan that George Santos claimed to have donated to the campaign himself. Whereas on October 10th, 2023, George Santos was federally charged with an additional 10 criminal counts. Whereas the additional charges were serious in nature, including conspiracy to commit offenses against the United States of America, wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, access device fraud, false statements to the Federal Election Commission, and falsifying records to obstruct the commission. Whereas the indictment outlined a vast amount of evidence against Santos, including conversations he held with his former campaign treasurer outlining plans to commit the fraud he is charged with. Whereas these charges indicate that George Santos engaged in a serious financial fraud throughout his 2022 campaign for the House of Representatives. Whereas George Santos stole over $44,000 from donors by charging their credit cards without authorization. Whereas George Santos directly profited from his fraudulent actions, including transferring money to his own bank account to buy luxury items and pay off debt. Whereas George Santos engaged in election fraud throughout his 2022 campaign by deceiving voters regarding his biography, defrauding donors, and engaging in other illegal campaign behavior. And whereas as a result of these actions, George Santos is not fit to serve his constituents as a United States representative. Now there it be resolved that pursuant to Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2, of the Constitution of the United States of America, Representative George Santos be and hereby is expelled from the House of Representatives.
And that's exactly correct. So again, after Thanksgiving, we'll see if George Santos is expelled. At least regardless of how that goes, we know we won't have to deal with Santos anymore after the 2024 election, which is wonderful. And the whole Santos saga may be coming to an end. Before you go, don't forget to become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership to get access to the bonus show and support what we're doing here. That's Monday through Friday, a bonus show exclusively for our members at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. Plus, follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, X at Luke P. Beasley, and sign up for the Beasley Brief, a daily morning newsletter that summarizes the previous day's events by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/brief. And I'll talk to you all next time.